Hello and welcome to another step-by-step how to tie tutorial video. This is what I am calling the Copperhead Paracord streamer. This is tied on a Mustad 3665A size 4. That's a 7x long streamer hook. I am using a white waxed tying thread. I am using a black 4/0 tying thread. The ribbing and the head are both this larger gauge copper wire that was salvaged from a piece of electrical equipment. The body, of course, is this red parachute cord. I'm just using the outer tube of it. And for a tail and for the beard, I have this old beat up white bucktail. You can see a little bit of the brown bleeding through into there. That's just fine with me. And I have, using the remnants of a yellow dyed bucktail, using the remnants of that. Use the most out of your material. Why not? And to give everything a little bit of extra weight in the first step, I'm going to tie in just a little bit of lead wire, just to give it a little bit of extra weight to get it down into that water column. We'll get the blank hook out. And we'll get this started. Like all good flies, they begin but with just a single wrap of thread. We'll get that started. And we'll tie in this lead weight, this lead wire. This is optional. I just want to give this just a little bit of extra. Get this down in the water column. And I'm doing this on the top side of the hook. We'll break that off. Just one strand. This is a heavier gauge wire. If I was using anything smaller, I would definitely wrap it around the shank of the hook. This is a nice big 7x long shanked hook. We'll tie in our tail, bucktail, white. Got this pre-stacked. And we'll proportion this out about the hook's length, not too much longer. A couple of tight wraps. We're going to lock this in the whole length of the body. Because I'm just using the outer sheath of that paracord, this will help give it just a little bit of extra fullness underneath. Not too concerned with how this all looks. It's all going to get covered with the paracord. And we'll do one round back and forth with some nice tight wraps. There we go. Beautiful. Alright, up front here we will tie in our copper wire. Once again, this is kind of a heavier gauged copper wire. And we're going to tie this in the full length of the body. And we'll bind that down nice and tight. Back and forth. Nice tight wraps. Okay, we're going to park the thread at the bend of the hook. I'm going to prepare to tie in our paracord. And what I do is I go to one end, and I'm just going to fluff it out a little bit, because that's going to be just a small portion of the tail. I'm going to slide this on to measure it. I want this the full length of the hook. So just kind of get a feel for it around that eye. Trim that off and be careful not to fuss with that freshly cut end too much. We want to keep that relatively clean. Get your tying thread through the frayed And we're going to lock this down with a couple of wraps. Alright, at this time I'm going to take this copper wire, I'm going to bring this forward. So again, I'm going to just kind of work it around the frayed ends. And I'm just going to grab onto this with my hackle pliers just to get this out of the way for now. I'm going to continue to do some locking wraps here on the back side. There we go. Avoid the tip of the hook, because ultimately I want this copper wire to stick forward of these thread wraps. And I want a nice little clean kind of a racing stripe on that back side there. Alright, at this time I'm going to cut my tying thread, and I'm just going to tie a couple of basic half hitches on the back side. I could have gave myself just a little bit more thread, but just a couple of half hitches, that's all it's going to take. Because I'm going to come in at it with a little bit of head cement. And we'll do one more. If 3 half hitches can't hold it, I don't know what can. Here we go. Alright, we'll trim that off. Looks like it found its way to the back side. And before we go too far, I'm just going to take a little bit of Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails. Just to help secure that. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Alright, take your copper wire. We're going to fold this to the back side, get that out of the way, and we're going to tie in our black thread here at the head. And we'll use this to secure the front portion of the body of the paracord. I'll slide that forward as far as I can take it. Want this relatively close to the eye. Take it back a little bit, and we'll lock it down. There we go. Run this back just a little bit. This is where I'm going to have my little copper throat, if you will. I'm just going to take a few wraps there and leave it at that. Alright, do my ribbing. Just going to take this copper wire and do some nice even open wraps from the rear to the front. And there we go. And once I get to this point, I'm going to switch from an open wrap to touching wraps with the copper wire. I'm going to do this for about, I don't know, maybe an 1/8 inch or so. Nice and close. There we go. I'll do one more. Alright, take your copper wire, get that out of the way. I'm going to come in with that hacked up yellow bucktail. And there we go. I'm going to trim this down I want it to go the full length of the body. That's for sure. Clean off my ends. Give myself a nice square block to tie into. I want a nice big head up here on the front. Everything's going to get wrapped and epoxied. A couple nice tight locking wraps. Check the length. I love it. And we'll continue to wrap this down all the way the full length up towards the head. There we go. Alright, if you have a fancy rotary, that's when you would engage that action. On the bottom side, got a little bit more white bucktail. Drop this in my other stacker. Just kind of even them up a little bit. And this I want to run the full length of the body as well. Go ahead and trim it to length. The back side here. Doesn't take much down here. Nice little tight clump. Not even a pencil's width. Just a small little beard. Lock this down all the way. We'll go ahead and flip our hook back into its proper orientation. And we're going to build up this head a little bit. And come at it from a couple of different angles. Sometimes that's what it takes, just to get a solid build up. Alright, that's going to be it for the tying thread. We'll finish this off with a nice whip finish. 1, 2, 3. Secure that, and we'll trim off our thread and get that out of the way. And I'm going to come in with my scissors and use the flat portion. I'm just going to give that thread just a little bit of a squeeze, just to make the fly just a little bit thinner. Alright, continue on with the copperhead portion. Start off with my tying right there. Nice clean wraps. We'll continue this forward. Touching wraps, building that copperhead that will be underneath the UV epoxy. I think it has a very beautiful look to it. Nice close touching wraps. And that's going to do it. Once it starts to slide towards the front on the nose portion, we're going to go ahead and terminate it there. And we'll take a little bit of UV clear, and I'm just going to add a little bit to the top side, emphasizing that first front wrap. And give it a quick zap with the light. Alright, that'll hold everything down while we build the head. I'm going to go ahead and snip off the copper wire. And we'll just fold that down, clean that up. Beautiful. Alright, apply our little stick-on eyes. They do not stick that well to the copper wire. They don't stick well to much of anything, so they have to get secured in. So we'll just set this on there as a temporary hold. And we'll do the same for the other side. Now these are not stuck on here by any stretch of the imagination, so we can definitely position them where we want them. Alright, when I'm sticking on eyes and I'm messing around with the UV, I'll come to the top side and I just get a little bit to flow on the top side and on the eyes. And that secures the top portion of the eyes where you have them positioned. And now it's as simple as coming in onto the bottom side and doing the same thing. So just a little bit of UV on the bottom. We'll carry that over. I really like this UV thin. It flows exceptionally well. Give that a quick zap. And this will ensure that everything, at least as up front, is held down. And we'll come in with probably one more, maybe two more rounds of UV just to smooth everything out. Fill in the gaps and clean everything up. Make sure we get all that thread covered. That's very important. Let that UV saturate everything. Nice, even coat. There we go. I'm liking it. Alright, one last zap with the UV torch. And the final step, one of the recommendations I've read is to cover your UV with a little bit, one last coat of fingernail polish. So that's what I like to do. Just one thin coat over the UV. And this will really keep everything tucked in and secured. There you have it. So that, my friends, is the Copperhead Paracord streamer tied on a size 6. It's a 7X long streamer hook. Alright folks, thank you for joining in. Please be sure to subscribe. Happy tying and tight lines.